Boo! It's Rue, and welcome to my channel. This is my first long-form commentary type video, so bear with me as I work out the formatting and pacing. Today I'm going to be talking about things I wish I had known and was told as a beginner artist. There are so many regrets and mistakes I've made in my art career, but these are the few I wish I could have avoided entirely. And ones I think I definitely could have avoided if I had been told to do otherwise. That is to say, everyone's artistic journey is their own, and my journey was just as torturous as many others. If you like this longer form content, please let me know by subscribing and liking this video. It really helps my channel out, and I'm trying to make this a side hustle while I work on getting into art school. With that said, I'll jump right into my personal art lore. This is necessary to understand where I went wrong and how I could have changed my strategies for improving my art. I'll be showing pictures and animations that go along with the time frame that I'm speaking about. Okay, so I started taking art seriously in middle school. That was around 2018 to 2019. At age 11, there's really not much to expect from your art. A blooming artist is going to draw what they want, when they want, how they want to. And this brings me to my very first point. Number 1. Drawing for joy. I wish I could have stayed in my bubble of drawing what I wanted just for the sake of making myself happy. I eventually started drawing what I thought might get me a following, but that's a point I'll touch on later. Drawing what you want, for the simple reason that you just want to, is probably one of the best reasons to draw, create, and make art in the first place. I think many of the pieces I make now no longer possess this mindset. I have this irrational fear that what I'm drawing isn't good or artsy enough, that the idea is silly, or that because it's within my comfort zone it isn't worth drawing. Draw what you want when you want to draw it, and you will find yourself so much happier as an artist. And after this incubation period of experimenting with traditional art and digital art, I spent a lot of my time drawing fandom art. One of my first fandoms was Doctor Who, and the others were pretty closely aligned with what was popular at the time. Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, Adventure Time, and eventually I moved into the musical theater phase of my life. After hitting age 12, I was introduced to the musical Heathers from my YouTube Recommended. The slime tutorial, which is a common theater term that basically means the illegally recorded version of a musical, was sitting on my feed for about 2 weeks before I decided to watch it. After that, I was absolutely stuck to the fandom. Enter Discord. Discord. If I didn't have a terribly insecure complex about my art from art YouTubers, now I had real-life people I could interact with on the daily that made me feel like my art was inferior. And this isn't because I was ever being talked down to about my art, but if any of you have ever been in an art Discord before, most art interactions look something like this. Young me. Post art. Get 1 or 2 reactions and some nice comments. Other artist without replying to or acknowledging my art. Posts and gets tens of dozens of reactions and positive remarks. For young artists, especially those of us who are validation and goal-driven, having your art ignored or completely buried under other, more experienced artists can be really demotivating. This brings me to my second point. Number 2. Other people's opinions of my art only mattered so much. No matter how much praise or validation I wanted or received for my art, I was always unreasonably self-critical. I would find myself saying things like, "Oh, my art is really good," after finishing a piece I was particularly proud of. Then, however, I go on Discord and see art from another artist I either looked up to or shared a server with, who is much more experienced than I am. Then I think, oh, well, my art doesn't look anything like that, and I want it to look like that, but it never will. This demotivation can cause terrible spiraling and a negative self-talk that seriously hurt my art ego in the long run. Because of this lack of following and my feelings of self-worth being rather low, I decided to, behind my parents' back, open an art Instagram. Enter Instagram, the big boss man in the sky that launches so many art communities, art dramas, and art careers. Back in around 2019, the Instagram app was much different. Now, it's got integration for artists to sell their work, link their websites, and a wider variety of ways to share your content. Reels being the main driving factor in growing art accounts on Instagram these days. My very first art account I opened in 8th grade. I was about 13 to 14 at the time. This was late 2019, right before the event which shall not be named crashed down upon this earth like the meteor that killed the dinosaurs. Using web browser Instagram, I posted my art to a lot of my followers, who were all my classmates, and really enjoyed the validation I would get from there. This would morph through the 2020 and 2021 era as I opened a few different art accounts in attempts to grow my following. Many of the times I closed my art accounts after only a few months because of the fact that I felt I wasn't seeing any returns on all the effort and time I was spending on drawing for an algorithm. I drew what I thought the algorithm would push, like fandom content or what was trending at the time. And my third point. Number 3. I learned to never feed the algorithm what it wants, if I didn't want to draw what it demanded. Also, I learned to never draw just for the likes. I learned to not fall for the attention that it gave me. Fandom artists who do well often have passion for the fandoms that they are drawing in, and are extremely consistent in their posts. If I were to draw cars all the time, even though I hate drawing anything mechanical, I may find that the algorithm has decided I am now the car guy artist. My audience is composed of people who love cars, but the second I draw a person, the algorithm recognizes I'm not giving the followers I have garnered what they want, and I will very quickly see diminishing returns on my account. The other thing is that when a fandom is new, there's an influx of people, but as the fandom dies out or begins to boil down, you will start to lose audience retention, and you end up with a dead account unless you skip to the next big thing, which is a viable option, but it's really hard to keep up with what's trending, especially when there's so much new media being released all the time. By mid-2021, I was creating Reels, the newly added and heavily pushed feature Instagram had just integrated. My very first reel was one of those art reveal reels where you show the sketch and magically erase the art to reveal the finished piece. Because of this and my Clone High fan art, I was doing exceptionally well by late 2021. I had amassed over 7,500 followers and nearing 10k at a rapid pace because of how many views my reels were getting, coupled with the booming Clone High fandom at the time. This was the worst time in my life. I was absolutely consumed by social media. Everything I posted had to have at least 400 likes or I would lose my damn mind. I thought that by getting Instagram famous, I would enjoy my art more, but I ended up dreading the idea of drawing after months of essentially pushing myself to draw 7 pieces a week that were able to be posted, easy to market, and looked nice. I began to focus so heavily on quantity over quality that I had made over 1,500 pieces in that year alone, all of which looked like absolute dog shit. Especially because I knew I wasn't doing my best work. And that brings me to number 4, quality over quantity. It goes without saying that the more I produced in a short amount of time, the less time I had to work on each of those pieces. Let me be clear though, drawing a large volume of art isn't bad in any way. It's actually a great way to improve, but trying to create dozens upon dozens of finished pieces every week and multiple finished pieces every day is a great way to speedrun burnout. This isn't just for art, but for most professions that require output of any kind. I will admit that I pushed through my burnout, but the feeling of hating doing art is horrible. Not enjoying the one passion that you once loved so dearly is like becoming estranged from a very close friend. You must treat your art like an extension of yourself. By overworking your art, you overwork yourself and your creative capacity becomes worn out. These days, I draw only around 4 to 5 finished pieces every month, with dozens of smaller pieces and sketches slotted in between the weeks where I do my big projects. I find that I have so much more to create than I did 3 years ago. After dissolving my account in early 2022 because of how much stress and anxiety it was causing me, I was forcibly sent into a social media cleanse. And let me tell you, social media addiction and withdrawals are real. The amount of emotional neglect I had felt from my art at the time had me stop creating for months until I was able to begin creating for joy again. During this period, I truly enjoyed drawing my original characters and having fun with my art. I also saw a significant improvement in my anatomy and my stylization because of using reference photos that I got off of Pinterest. At this time, I had graduated from using Procreate and started to use Clip Studio Paint. I thought it would make my art so much better because it cost over 20 times the amount of Procreate, but I found very quickly that it didn't matter what software I used, and that my traditional art wouldn't improve more just because I was using expensive materials. My last point that I want to make is, I learned not to attribute my art's worth to the materials used to make it. I used free drawing apps and Bic mechanical pencils on lined paper for most of my artistic career and created art I absolutely loved, so why would it make my art any better or worse if I use something more expensive or more cheap? Nice things are nice, that's always the case, but nice things won't improve your art. If that were the case, I should have been the next Hayao Miyazaki when I got my first set of Copics. Speaking of, here are some free digital art resources that you can use if you're looking to get into digital art but don't have the money to buy an expensive program. Krita, WebbyPaint, Blender, Aggie.io, Drawpile, and Ibis Paint X. Krita is a free drawing software which I used when I first started doing digital art, and I found it to have really nice brushes and it has an animation feature. WebbyPaint is an online web paint browser, so it's completely online, which is quite nice if you have like a Chromebook or something a little more cheap that you can't run a full program on. Blender, which is a free open source 3D modeling software that also supports 2D animation and rigging. Aggie.io, which is an online collaborative drawing program, as well as Drawpile, but both can be used as individual drawing engines by oneself. So if you don't want to draw with other people, then you can draw on your own in those kinds of programs. And Ibis Paint X, which is available on mobile, I believe on every single OS, so that's really nice. But yeah, alright. To wrap up, here are the 5 things I wish I had known as a beginner artist. 1. Drawing for fun is a perfectly good reason to want to do art. 2. You are your own worst critic, and others' opinions of your art doesn't matter. Work on making art that you like, and you will most definitely see improvement. 3. When posting on social media, don't post just for the algorithm and clout. Doing this is fine every once in a while, but remember to draw what you love too. 4. Quality of work matters so much more than quantity. If you're making 2 to 3 amazing, breathtaking pieces every year, that's totally fine. Just don't stretch yourself too thin. 5. Having expensive art supplies and drawing programs doesn't make you a better artist. So now you know. Reflecting back on the art I was making back when I was still in middle school and high school, I think I was very driven by goals of improvement, but if I could go back and change anything about my art path, it would have been to never have picked up social media. Not in the sense that I never would have been on it ever in the first place, but that I would have waited until I was at least 14 or 15 before even considering posting. Using apps like that made me so self-critical and really destroyed my idea of what good art is. Good art is so hard to define. Good art can be Homestuck Trolls, or it can be Da Vinci's Last Supper. And if you're still here, thank you so much for watching until the end. If you have any tips, softwares, ideas, or other things you want to share, please drop a comment. You can feed the YouTube gods some of that delicious engagement, and it really helps me out. That's all for today. Cringe is dead, be free, draw whatever you want, and be gentle with yourself. Bye!